Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', fantasy tubes? My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. That's the fancy French way of saying lemon.
Lemon.
My name is Morgan Colby. Oh, I already said that. I said it so fast that my brain turned off.
I didn't even hear you say it, so good thing you repeated that.
Yeah, see, I mean, Rick doesn't know what my name is. He comes on the show and asks me every time.
Well, your name's on the little screen there, but I don't know it by heart.
I don't know. Yeah, I need to be reminded. He goes on YouTube to watch to see what my name is.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome into the pod. Hopefully you listened to the last two episodes that we did where we broke down, what was it, consistent quarterbacks and wide receivers?
Yes, sir.
Today we are going to break down consistent running backs from the 2022 fantasy football season. Talk about where those guys broke down, what their prospects look like in the future, and we'll go through some of that. Lots going on in the NFL as we approach the new league year. I believe the day we're recording this is just Tuesday. They opened franchise tag time. And I'm curious.
Did they?
Because everyone's talking about Lamar. And I would assume Lamar is getting franchise tagged. Why are we all playing that game?
There are little rumblings that I'm seeing on Twitter from little tiny, 10,000 followers, which is more than me, but still little tiny kind of almost blue checkmark people, but they're not. Less than James Stu.
Oh,
anyway, I'm hearing a little rumblings on the Twitter saying that there's a real shot that Lamar gets franchised and then traded, or at least could be traded.
Okay. Oh, whoa. Did you hear that? I just got a freaking Applebee's ad straight in my ears.
Did. Of course it's Applebee's.
I was trying to see.
Targeted marketing.
Yeah, targeted marketing. I was trying to see if there was any information, but interesting. They would trade him? That seems dumb.
They would franchise him first, though. So if he gets franchised, it doesn't close the door that he's staying with the Ravens.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Did you also hear some of the reports are about Rodgers?
Enlighten me.
No, you didn't. So there's these two beat Packers guys, and these guys had 60K. 70K followers, and they had a podcast, and they were basically saying how the Packers are so sick of Aaron Rodgers, and they're done with him. So they
I did hear this. I did hear this. Yeah, I mean, we already knew that though.
Kind of. I mean, there's still that Rodgers could come back thing, but now it feels like he's either retiring or getting traded at this point.
Yeah, if I were him, I'd probably retire.
I guess it depends where he goes, but here we go. The official betting odds. Right now, the Raiders are minus 200, 60, which is an implied chance of 66% that he's going to the Raiders. The Jets are second at 150, 40% chance.
Yeah.
Packers is still third at 250, 28% chance. And then it's a cluster of teams. Colts, Buccaneers, Commanders, 49ers, Titans, Patriots, retirement. Patriots at 3%.
Yeah, gross. Interesting. And then to speak on quarterbacks quickly, because it's really the only news we care about at this point. Derek Carr met with the Jets. The Jets were like, hey, we love you. We think you can take us to a Super Bowl. I'm not even joking. They said that. Which I thought was laughable. I was listening to a local Boston radio show, and somebody said, our thoughts that he's probably only slightly better than Mike White, and they were like, oh, everyone else was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, have you watched Derek Carr play football?
The thing with Carr too is last year he had Devontae Adams, and he still had a mediocre year.
Yeah,
with Devontae Adams.
No, I mean, it could have been that because the relationship between Derek Carr and, obviously Josh McDaniels comes in. He's an offensive-minded head coach. He flipped everything upside down, which changing it to what he wanted it to be. And I think that there was probably some, I want to say, like, disagreements between him and Josh McDaniels, which led to him not playing well. So, but I mean, they gave you everything you wanted and one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL at the time. Like, what are you doing, Derek Carr? So if you're telling me he goes to the Jets with Nathaniel Hackett,
yeah, it's going to be this. The only positive I can see for the Jets getting Carr is that they wouldn't have to give up any assets. They would just get him, they would just sign him. So they keep their what is it, top 12 pick, top 13.
Yeah.
So they would get another high pick.
What's interesting, though, about that report was that, so the Jets said they loved Carr. And if you love him and you think he's going to the Super Bowl, right? You think he can take you to a Super Bowl, then why did you let him leave the building? Yeah.
Right.
So if
because they want Rodgers.
Well, that's, everyone would assume they would want Rodgers. Now, if you're Derek Carr and the Jets are holding out for Rodgers, I say frick the Jets and I go somewhere else. Also, Carr, what are you doing? Go to the Bucs. Go somewhere in the NFC. I just don't get it. I don't understand.
He wants his revenge on the Raiders.
Like, let's say, who's the other team that Rodgers could go to? The Raiders? Let's say he goes to the Raiders. He gets traded to the Raiders. Probably not going to happen, but let's say he goes to the Raiders. He goes to the Raiders. Carr goes to the Jets. All of a sudden, you're in a division with the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Bills, and you're like, okay, now we got to battle with those teams. Not just that, but you also got to battle Patrick Mahomes. You got to battle the newly built Denver Broncos with Sean Payton. You have to battle literally every good team in the AFC, and it's just not going to work. You're not making the playoffs, Jets. I'm sorry. It's not happening. And I could say that as a Pats fan, we're probably not making the playoffs either.
Unless we get Rodgers.
Yeah, unless you get Rodgers. So, I think Derek Carr should go the other side, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's apparently, David Carr, his brother, said that he expects it to be a long process. So I'm guessing he's going to wait until Rodgers gets traded, maybe sees where Garoppolo goes. He's going to wait and kind of pick his spot.
Okay.
And there's also a report that he might meet with the Panthers next, an NFC team. So there you go, another NFC South team. So
Panthers.
He met with the Saints.
That makes me angry for a whole other set of reasons.
The Panthers going from Baker or Sam Darnold to Baker to Derek Carr.
What are you doing?
I'd be so mad.
If I was a Panthers fan, I'd be pissed. Draft a guy. Not that there's anybody in this draft, but
unless they trade up, try to get Stroud or Young.
Yeah, but anyway, there's your QB news. Any more thoughts on that?
No, I'd say that's it. Have you? I mean, we're gonna get into it soon, but have you started looking at some prospects?
Yes, but just quarterbacks.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Me too.
The Anthony Richardson, is that his name?
Yep.
That completion.
He's the Twitter darling.
That freaking completion percentage is hogwash.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What makes you think that's going to get better in the NFL? Oh man, he's very developmental.
Yep, and he might end up being a top 10, top 15 pick.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, so we will, now that we're 8 minutes into the show, I probably should have done the intro stuff, but we're going to jump into consistent running backs for this show. Like I said, these are the most consistent running backs from 2022. We'll go through some surprises on the list and if they can continue and stuff like that. Before we do that, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. All right. Do you have those good notey notes in front of you?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do this. So, for the running back position, a bad performance is constituted as 10 points. A quality performance is 11 points to around 17, and then a great performance is over 17 points. Which would you agree that that's accurate? For a running back?
Yeah,
I would say that's pretty good. I would be elated if I got 17 points for a running back at this point, considering how the NFL functions, handing it off to 5 guys.
This is half PPR, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the very highest, tallest guy on the list, and it's
15 games, dude.
It's 15 quality or great games. He did just have 10 quality games and then 5 great games. So, like obviously in PPR, that probably flips a little bit, just because.
Probably a little bit, yeah.
Just because I had him for portions of the season. Did I have him for the whole year? I don't remember. Or did
No,
I
you
have him
traded
at
him
all?
for Saquon, bro.
That's true. I did trade for Saquon, but 88% of the time, Christian McCaffrey finished as with a quality or great performance. So that means 11 points or more, which is absolutely that's CMC. He's back.
Yeah, that's CMC,
After
bro.
the last 2 years,
49 is addition.
Yeah. Now, going into year 2 with the 49ers, like obviously there's some concerns with Christian McCaffrey. Or no lack there. Well, I would say concerns with age. I'll say concerns with age, not concerns with Christian McCaffrey. Fair. Are you at all concerned going into next year, knowing that there isn't a plan at, I hope there's a plan at quarterback for the 49ers, but there doesn't seem to be a plan at quarterback for the 49ers.
I mean, I like him a lot on the 49ers, and I think, especially for Dynasty, I would be starting to ring the bell on him. But for redraft, I'm okay with it. I mean, the RB1 this year was Eckler in PPR. Derrick Henry was a top 5 back. Josh Jacobs, I think, is only a year younger than McCaffrey.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at the running backs, the top, let's look at the top 10 running backs this year. A lot of them were 25 or older. Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, I think Saquon, Derrick Henry, Jacobs, McCaffrey, Eckler. The only one who wasn't was Ramondre, I think. Even Pollard, I think, is 25, right?
He's actually like 1 year younger than Zeke, I believe.
Yeah, Pollard's 25. So I think, if you're in that 25 to 27 range, unless you're Todd Gurley, you're still in a decent spot. Or Le'Veon Bell too. I think Le'Veon Bell fell off when he was like 27, 28. But I think you're still in a decent spot. It's once you get older than 27 is when I start to like McCaffrey in 2024, 2025. That's when I'm going to kind of be like, a little more
right.
wary of him. But even I don't know, because Derrick Henry's out here, 29 years old?
And he's lighting it up.
He's still lighting it up. So
yeah, I mean, and the other thing, Henry too I think he came out of college late.
He did, and he was kind of like redshirted too. I think his first.
Yeah, so I mean that makes sense that he would last a little bit longer, but he still makes me nervous. 30 years old. I know.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
I'm 10.
But I've been saying it for 2 years now. So
it's 8 to 10 months away from being 30, and I know how my kneecaps feel. So.
Right.
I can tell you, Derrick Henry's probably don't feel great. I mean, he does get millions of dollars worth of recovery.
That's true, bro. He's probably got some better trainers than you do.
Yeah, I got YouTube. Yeah. Anyway, Christian McCaffrey leads the way. I mean, if he stays healthy next year, I personally don't see a change for him. I think he continues to stay on this. You don't see a decline. The one thing I will note with San Francisco, and I'm curious to go back in the numbers. I'm sure I will in the offseason, but it seemed like at times Christian McCaffrey would have these big games with San Francisco, and then there would just be weeks where he would just do nothing, or he would score on the lower end of a quality performance. And you would see Elijah Mitchell or somebody else kind of take some of the work away. And that's what concerns me a little bit, because San Francisco does like to give the ball to multiple people. And so that's one aspect with him going to San Francisco in the middle of the season that I kind of was looking at, where, the reason why I didn't think he would be, any different really for fantasy on the Panthers as opposed to San Francisco. But when you look at Christian McCaffrey now, I think obviously he's, with his PPR upside and the amount of pass catching that he's going to get from whatever quarterback is dumping it off to him, he's going to have that upside, which gives him a really good base floor and makes him a really good pick in the top 5 of a fantasy draft. So I would stick with that. I don't know why Jonathan Taylor pops in at second. I think
I know. I don't know how this is based off.
I think it's just ECR, to be honest with you.
But Kenneth Walker's 5, so I'm not even
gonna bring it up. I wish I could sort it. That would be great. But anyway, some other guys that were I would say in the 70s. Just below that, because Christian McCaffrey kind of blew it out of the water. It's interesting to see who's the running back one in fantasy football this year in PPR.
It was Eckler.
Was it Eckler? Yeah. So
yeah,
interesting to see that Christian McCaffrey had more of these good, consistent performances. Eckler finishing with a lower number.
I mean the receptions carried it. I think Eckler was like 4th in the NFL in catches, like the whole NFL.
Yeah. So
he had like 105 catches, I think. So
probably see a jump if this was based on PPR for Austin Eckler, but he had 11 quality and great performances, which was around 65%, and then he had 6 poor performances, which is 35%. So a little bit more inconsistent than what you would want, but I feel like when he had a big game, it was a big game. Like he's Mike Williams of
the Chargers, man.
Yeah, the Chargers have all of them, but he's basically Mike Williams of the running back position, where it's like some weeks he'll explode. Didn't think he could repeat the 20-plus touchdown season that he had last year, but he kind of did it again. But 65% is not bad. It's just not something that I want to see from a guy that might be drafted 101 this year.
Yeah, I mean that definitely concerns me. I'm trying to look up the leaders for receptions.
Yeah.
Among running backs and the difference that Eckler had. Oh yeah, here it is. So McCaffrey, I believe, was 2nd in catches.
Yeah.
At 85. And then below him was Fournette at 73, and Eckler was at 107. So he had 30 more receptions than the 3rd best pass catching back in the league.
He must have been hella inconsistent.
Yeah. So I mean, PPR would probably push him a little bit, but yeah, he also just was inconsistent.
Yeah. I'm curious. But, I'm gonna pull up the PPR numbers right now.
I'm kind of, I think I brought it up before. I'm a little nervous about Eckler for next year.
Yeah.
I probably won't be drafting him in any leagues.
It's kind of like how many years in a row can you continually?
I also, do you think Kellen Moore is going to use him like Pollard?
I don't know.
And they look for their own Zeke.
That's possible.
And kind of use that Cowboys offense with the Chargers. I don't know how that's going to play out. In the beginning of the season, they were definitely using multiple running backs and felt like they wanted to go in another direction. And then they were just like, screw this. We'll just give Eckler all the work again. I feel like if the Chargers had a decent 2nd running back on their team, though, they would use him a lot. So that makes me nervous about Eckler. But some guys in the 70s was Saquon. He was great all year. Derrick Henry is still the king at 75% as well.
Yeah.
But I believe he is 4th, the 4th best quality and great percentage among running backs.
Yeah.
Was Breece Hall.
Ooh.
Which is interesting that he was that high.
I have I'm trying to find Breece. There he is. 71%. Wow. So I mean, obviously he only played how many games? 7?
Yeah, I think he tore his ACL in week 7 or 8.
So, I mean, he was fantastic when he was playing. Like, that was actually, what was he, a 4th-round pick? That was actually a steal in the 4th round. And, there was some concerns about some other running backs on the Jets and what the Jets were.
He started a little slow.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, I mean, his week 1, he had 10 points, and then it went up every single week pretty much.
Yeah. So, he was fantastic. I do have concerns. So, I was listening to what is it? One of those analyst doctors, PT people, whatever. And they were essentially saying that what Breece Hall suffered with his injury is similar to, because he didn't just tear his ACL, he damaged the PCL or something like that as well.
Okay.
Something like that. Anyway, I could be wrong, so don't yell at me in the comments. but he damaged 2 ligaments in his knee, not just one. And so they obviously had to repair it. But this is a very similar injury to the one that Saquon suffered 2 years ago. And Saquon last year was not good. Like, even when he was playing, it was inefficient. It caused me to fear him this year to the point where I made him a bust. And obviously, this year he came out and played a lot better. So my concern, like, I think Breece Hall will be great moving forward, but I think, you know, you look at some of these numbers and, like, consistency-wise, 71% of the time Breece Hall was really good. They might get a quarterback in Derek Carr, which I think would slightly improve their offense. And so, like, in all of those contexts, if Breece Hall is playing week 1, he's a good add on your team. I'm just concerned about efficiency and other things with him, and maybe he doesn't perform as well because he's trying to come back from this injury. So I would temper the excitement on Breece Hall, but I love these numbers. They look good from what he was doing.
Yeah, I would. It's hard because I like Breece Hall and these numbers look good and everything, but yeah, what you say definitely scares me, and I was already kind of nervous about him anyway, just based on like what J.K. Dobbins, for example, this past year. Who tore his ACL in like July or August, and he really wasn't the same all year. It took him by the very end of the season, and even then, it didn't feel like he was even in the playoffs. Like, it felt like he was still not the same as he was in the beginning of his career. So it's kind of scary to think about, and I'll definitely be nervous about drafting Breece Hall. But I kind of want to see where he ends up landing. But yeah, if he's like a 3rd round pick, I'm probably out on him.
Yeah. I mean, late 3rd, I probably would think about it, but I think he's going to be early 3rd, late 2nd.
But, you know, the training camp hype videos can always swing me.
They always do. Well, see, hey, every offseason, I get a DK Metcalf one.
Did you see him jump and make that catch?
God, it's ridiculous.
That had to have been fake, though.
No.
Are you on team fake or real?
I think that's real.
Dude, he
does.
Someone did like now, granted, it's Twitter, but someone did like a little fake study on it, and they said he jumped like 70-something inches, which would be the world record by 20 inches. So he said it has to be fake.
Interesting.
But
he jumped over himself, essentially.
Yeah.
6'4"?
Like, that's literally not humanly possible.
No, it's crazy.
But I mean, if that video was real, like, that'd be like.
It also could have been like angle and stuff like that made it look ridiculous. Yeah. But the fact that I think what shocked me about it more specifically was how fast he got up. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that dude is like insane.
A running back, because you have guys in here I would say around 65 to 75% is good. Like, if you're in that ballpark, Kenneth Walker kind of.
I would take 60%. Yeah.
He's good. Josh Jacobs was.
I'm surprised he's
a little bit lower at 59%, which is.
He started a little slow though, didn't he?
He did start slow because Josh McDaniels was cadoodling himself with Zamir White. So it took until midway point in the season, so he did have some bust games in there, but it doesn't concern me on Josh Jacobs. I think they know what he is for their team now. Question is, do they use a franchise tag on that guy? Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb was around 65. So some of these guys that you drafted high were there. Some guys that were breakouts. You see Travis Etienne. Etienne was around running back 17 in 17 games. So I guess you could say he was a breakout, but 6 weeks of the season was bad. Wasn't great. 47% of the time he was having a quality or great performance. After he got through that tough stretch early in the season, he started to put together some games. But I will say, as a Travis Etienne manager or owner, whatever you want to call me, it was hard to have him on my team.
Yeah.
Because between Josh Jacobs and Jermichael Hasty and Jamal Agnew, I was like, who the hell are these guys, and why is Travis Etienne on the field? And you realize too when you were watching the games, Etienne cannot handle 20 plus carries a game.
I don't think he.
If you watched, there were times where he would get to carry 15, and he was getting up slow, and it was you could tell it was just wearing on him, and it's so. They started to try to wield that back a little bit, but they weren't getting him involved in the passing game at all.
That's where I thought he would be used. Like he should not be getting the way he was getting used. He was getting what, like 20 carries and like 2 catches a game, right?
Yeah.
He should be more like 14, 15 carries at like 5 catches a game.
Yeah.
They should use some kind of like the Cowboys used Pollard this year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more than that, but that kind of style. Because like 45 targets to me feels low. I feel like he should be at like the 60, 70 range. He's a pass catching back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agreed, but and then Ramondre on this list too is also, I think, at 47%, which is interesting. I think he would be higher with PPR though, because he was third in the NFL in catches.
Yeah.
But still interesting that he was kind of on the lower end as well, even though he finished top 10 back.
There was also, for Ramondre too, for a lot of these running backs, there was a stretch early in the season where they weren't, like, Ramondre didn't really come on until like week 4 or 5. So obviously that changes things a little bit, but he's around 47%, same as Travis Etienne. So I'm interested to see what they would do with a full like workload. Now, Mondre, I will say, I'm starting to like turn on a little bit. I think he's great. I think he's a great player. But I think a lot of people are going to have this mentality. And as Pats fans, we'll let you know because we follow the ins and outs of the New England Patriots. But like, if they bring in a pass catching running back this offseason,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ramondre's reception upside is dead, which means his upside is, do they have Damian Harris anymore?
Well,
because Harris will take the goal line work, and Ramondre will get the between the 20s work, and all of a sudden you got pass catching guy on third downs. You got Ramondre who takes the running downs in between the 20s, and then Damian Harris who, once you get inside the 20, will bowling ball it straight into the end zone. So like, how much opportunity is Ramondre going to have if people are going to get drafted and get burned? We got a whole offseason to determine that based on what the Pats do. But I like him in his current form. Like if he still is getting those pass catching, if he's still getting the pass catching work and stuff like that.
Yeah, unless the Patriots draft somebody and redshirt him.
They will.
Which can't happen. But we'll see how that. Yeah, that's an interesting player to keep your eye on for the offseason.
I was gonna say the only other guy here, Najee Harris, struggled on the season, 11 bust games,
Swift,
4 quality games, 2 great games. Swift was in this conversation. One of the guys I did want to hit on, 29% for Swift.
Yeah, gross.
I don't really know what they're doing in Detroit. I love Swift. I keep pushing him down boards. I'll draft him again.
I will say he partly did that to himself. There were times this year where he was scared to get hit.
Yeah, he's got to figure.
Like he would drop passes because he felt like a shadow behind him. Like there was some situations like that, but you still see the boom. Like especially early on in the season before he got hurt, like he was putting up like 20-point weeks.
Dalvin Cook is bad now. 53% is not awful. He had 9 quality and great games, so like,
he's not in that elite tier of running backs anymore.
He's not in the elite tier of running backs anymore. He's definitely a good, like, if he falls into the second round, I think he would be a good second running back with a chance. But there's also with a chance of being like an RB1 on the season. But I think the main thing that there should be concern surrounding Dalvin Cook moving forward in the future is that it doesn't sound like Minnesota wants to hold on to him. It sounds like they want to move on. So depending on landing spot for Dalvin Cook, if he does end up leaving Minnesota, like there could be problems there.
Yeah, he might be on his way out the fantasy door in terms of like the relevant running backs, depending on his situation that plays out. But I think he still has a little something left. But it's hard for those veteran running backs that like Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
are 2 examples that come to mind where once they move on, like it's kind of hard for them to be those elite guys still.
Yeah. James Conner was further down the list, 62%.
Except James Conner.
Did you say James Conner already?
No, I said except James Conner because he went from the Steelers to the Cardinals and ended up being better.
Yeah. He did this year do decently. There were some bad games in there, but 62% of the times.
That's pretty good.
Zeke Elliott was at 60%.
He would be lower with PPR.
1 great game, 8 quality games. So he's just that plotter. Just stick him in your flex and get 10 points. There you go, bud.
3 yards a carry.
Yeah, Jamal Williams was kind of in a similar context, but he did have some boom games when they threw
He
him
did
in
have a
there.
couple boom games, yeah.
And then outside of that, I don't really see too many surprises on the list in terms of running backs.
No,
Damian Pierce is one guy that I wanted to hit on. He was at 54% in his 13 games played before he got hurt.
yep.
I do feel like this is a guy where like Houston could draft another running back. Not that they need one, but they could draft one, and then that guy could split with Pierce, and you could end up in a weird situation. But if they run into next season with Damian Pierce and no one else,
he could be a good value.
He could be a good value as well.
Because not a lot of people are kind of, I feel like, talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's understandable because we don't know what they're going to do, and they could draft somebody. But if they go into next year with, I think they'll add, even if they don't draft somebody, they're going to add like some kind of pass catching back because they need somebody other than Rex Burkhead.
No, fair.
It just makes sense for them to do that. But depending on what the Texans do, I think Damian Pierce could end up being a good value again this year in drafts.
Okay. The only other guy that I want to mention is Joe Mixon at 53%. 8 quality great games, 1 great game, 7 quality games. So he kind of is declining slightly as well. But like Rick said, a lot of these running backs are on the older side. So I think this year there should be a change.
We're going to see a shift.
We could see a shift, especially if this seems like a heavy running back class. So we'll see. I mean, this could also be the last guard, the last good running backs we ever see before the true hell that is the NFL takes over and everyone's got 3 of them.
And everything is the passing game.
Is there any other running backs you want to mention?
No, I think we touched on everybody.
Okay, there you go. There's some consistent running backs, some interesting data to dive into and to break down. Be sure to follow the numbers, follow the metrics, see if they continue into next year, and help make that inform your draft decisions in August. We got tight ends tomorrow. Check it out. See you later, guys.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.